Hello and welcome to Unequally Yoked Us Now.
Us now, us now, us now.
I am Neal Winters.
And I'm Naomi Winters.
And we are just this weekend, or a couple weekends ago, was Mother's Day. These are our Mother's Day flowers.
Day.
And
Let me tell you what he did. So sweet.
Okay.
He knew it would be important to me. He went to a Latina church and got these flowers uniquely made for me. No other floral arrangement like that. And he knew it would mean a lot to me that he went to a church to do it and that it was a minority.
Yeah.
So
Anything to make you happy, Naomi.
it meant a lot to me. I loved it.
I love you. So because it was Mother's Day, we thought, what can we do? And we thought, let's do an episode dedicated to both sets of our parents. And we want to talk about the positive things because we have said not negative things, but we have talked about.
We've shared some of the things that have been hard for us growing up.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's going to happen with any parent, mind you. I want to say I do not blame my parents. I think they were doing the best they can. I've done the best I knew how to do. We're not perfect people. We have our own baggage we're working through. So,
Yep.
Love my parents. So not going to be hard to talk about the positive things.
Same with me. I was
Parents.
doing bingo the other night and comparing the childhood I've given my kids to the childhood my parents gave me, and wishing I could have been more like my parents. Believe it or not, I was also pretty down and depressed because I was regulating medication.
Oh, right.
But still, that speaks volumes about the childhood my parents gave me. So
I love his parents. Oh my gosh, my in-laws are the best.
yeah.
The best.
So for future purposes, we're going to refer to my dad as Granddad and my mom as Nana.
And mine are grandma and grandpa.
So there you go. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, both of us grew up in boating families. So what are your memories with the boat and your family?
So we went to Pine View Reservoir in Utah a lot.
Which is just outside of Ogden.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that everyone went to. When we went to it, they didn't know a lot about it. Not a lot of people knew about it. Not a big lake. But yeah, we'd go there and we had our spot on the beach. Kids and moms would stay and just play and build sandcastles and swim. And then when we wanted to turn on the boat, we'd go on the boat and we'd ride on the wave runner, water weenie, if you call it that. And we'd do the tubes.
The 5-person wave runner.
The 5-person wave runner, like a big old long boat. Little banana boat.
I hated those.
It was bright yellow. I loved it so much. Oh my gosh!
All they were was an injury waiting to happen.
We didn't get injured very much. I mean, okay, there were a few concussions and like slaps on the water, bruises and things, but nothing like.
No terminally.
It wasn't
no
like we
terminal.
ripped our arms off or something.
I just always worried about banging my head into the person in front of me.
We never did that.
I'm impressed. I think I did that one time on a 2-person jet tube or whatever it was called.
That was enough for you, huh?
That was, I
We did skiing too, like you guys.
Yeah, like I didn't like being behind the boat and out of control and having someone else control my destiny.
Oh, I loved that.
And of course, and if you had a psycho driver, then you were really in trouble.
I loved my dad driving. He knew how I liked to go over the waves. He'd do turns and then hurry and go straight. So you'd go over the wake and jump the wake and go over to the other side. So you'd get totally airborne. That was my favorite. Oh my gosh.
He did a good job.
He was so good. But then he'd go slow when I was like nervous about a new tube or a new toy that we were introducing in the water. It was just, he was very careful.
Oh. Well, my career in the water started behind my parents' 17-foot Sea Sprite, and
we were a Gulfstream.
Yeah, our boat was a Sea Sprite, tri-hull, white, 115 Evinrude outboard molder on the back. But anyway, we went to Powell, and my brother and I wanted to ski really, really, really badly, but we were like 5 and 6, so wasn't much of a possibility. So my parents decided they would put us out behind the boat with ropes and just tow us slowly in our life jackets.
To get used to going in the water.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to move along in the
Little
water.
bit of
Like
movement.
it was no wake, no speed, just.
I've done that. Yeah.
It made us feel part of it. And then my dad had some sort of a yellow thing that you sat on, and I tried that as a kid. But
Was that a blow up?
no, it was a piece of plastic. It was.
Oh, is it the
It was like it had like two
board.
pontoons on either side, and and it had a seat that you sat on, and you put your legs in it, and held on to the rope in the middle. It blew away from the boat when we were on our way home.
Did you had the boogie board?
We had
right?
boogie boards. Yeah, this was not a boogie board.
Not the boogie board.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to see a picture of that.
I don't know if we even have a picture of it.
Really?
It's basically stored in the catacombs
In the memory.
of my memory.
They probably don't even make anything like it anymore.
Oh, no,
Sounds dangerous.
It was dangerous.
Yeah.
It was really dangerous.
Hitting your head on that hard plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a Neil Winters Facebook channel where I talked a lot about some of my boat memories.
Your boating.
But
we both did go to Lake Powell. You guys, we went every year.
Yeah,
you guys went multiple times.
We went
a
3
year.
times a year, and then we also went to Huntington Lake about 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah, we'd go once or twice to Lake Powell, and every other year, a few times we took our boat to Seattle.
To see your dad's family.
We went through the locks. That was fun.
Yeah, you had more big water boating than I did.
Yeah, and my dad had a bigger boat, later in life with the cabin inside the bed and all that. That one I almost killed all my family.
That was a good memory.
We got really cold. It was a very cold morning.
It was Memorial Day weekend.
And so we turned on the heater. We're like, we just have to remember.
Turned on the stove.
We turned on the stove and the heater. Like, okay, 5 minutes, we got to turn the stove off. Well, we forgot. And all of a sudden, one of the kids, passes out. And I'm like, I don't feel so good. Everyone kept saying, I don't feel so good. And all of a sudden, my mom says, we have carbon monoxide poisoning. Like, it just hit her. And then she fell. She dropped. She quit breathing. She went dead in her eyes. And I remember my sister hitting her chest and shaking her and saying, Mom, you have to breathe. You have to breathe. And she wasn't. And at that point, another kid passed out and was throwing up. So we passed him off to the guys that were...
We were in a fishing
boat, bebopping around. They went away from the boat to get away from the air because it was trapped.
Well, we didn't know what was going on. We just saw you guys waving us down.
We're like, get over here.
And then, yeah, your brother took his son, and son puked in his arms, all over him. It was really scary.
You know what's crazy is that we had 2 babies up front.
Mm-hmm.
And they were completely safe because they were down under where the bed was in the very bow of the boat. And they were able to stay safe. I was pregnant and didn't know it with our first.
Yeah.
That explains a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
Were you pregnant?
I was pregnant.
She's born in April, May,
with Savannah.
June, July, August, September, October, November, December. I don't think you were pregnant yet. I don't think you were. Anyway,
I don't remember.
So we went to Lake Powell every summer, 3 times a summer for 3 days at a time. I think we only went to Powell a few times longer than 3 days because 3 days was like the ideal amount of time for my dad to get off work. And we'd go there.
That's what you do.
Drive down there first thing in the morning on day 1, spend all of day 1, all of day 2, and then all of day 3 and leave at about 5 o'clock, and it was a 3-hour drive home.
And what would you do?
Well, my dad fished a lot, which I hated.
And you guys all had to stay on the boat for that?
We all had to stay on the boat. But my little brothers loved fishing. I've never been into fishing. So, but my dad, he loved it. My dad is a hunter, a fisherman, a golfer. He raised me to be a very active person.
Yeah.
And I did not do the same for our boys. But our boys are doing well anyway.
They are active.
No, our one son is busy with his
He's
career,
very physically active in
and
his
then the
career.
other son plays volleyball and acts and our girls
dances.
dance and act. So I was sports active. Our boys not as much as I was. Like
Our girls did dance, cheer, tumbling. So they did stuff. We jumped on the trampoline. We, walked the dogs and went running. And
but like in terms of my boys having the same type of boy childhood that I did, like they didn't.
right.
I played little league football. I played little league baseball. I started golfing at 12. Like golf is a huge thing in my dad's life. Like he's retired right now and works at the golf course and gets free golf. so he can play, and he doesn't have to rent his cart. He doesn't have to pay greens fees. And he shoots like under par still, and he's 75 or so.
He's real good.
Yeah. But I golf a little bit, but I last time I golfed was when my brothers and dad came here for the PGA tournament a year ago.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't golfed since. I thought I'd get into it, but right now I'd rather do this and gardening because anyway. So let's talk about your parents.
Oh my gosh, we would go to Lake Powell for a week or two. A lot of times we'd rent a houseboat, and the top of the houseboat had nothing on it, so we could put as many people as we wanted with like mats and sleeping bags or blankets because it was really hot there. But so we could invite friends sometimes, but it was the whole family, all the married people, all their kids, all their spouses. And we're a big family. We had 5, and we were all married and had, multiple kids. And so
I never went to the house.
the cousins would play, and that's kind of why we took turns either being on the beach, being on the houseboat. The houseboat kind of stayed on the beach most of the time, unless we were going to go, like, to Rainbow Bridge as a group or something, But yeah, we had a good time, and when we wanted to go out fishing, the guys would go fishing. The rest would stay back. If we wanted to go water skiing, we'd get up early and ski, or go late when it had smoothed out again. We wanted to hit the waves with all those tubes.
Did you guys go to Wall
Go out in the channel. We went everywhere.
Did you go to Wallweep or the Bullfrog usually?
Bullfrog.
And we went to Height.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with Height is
Height sometimes.
Height, when I was a kid, had a lot of rocks. I mean, Height is non-existent now. Like there's no.
And there was a lot of wood.
It's just
too.
a river. But Height was a lot of runoff, a lot of wood.
It was
but
messy.
it was very isolated. So.
Not great swimming water at all.
Yes, it was.
And
it was beautiful.
Not great sandy beaches. Like we wanted our sandy beaches so that the kids could make
and
their
Height wasn't
sandcastles.
as crowded, so you could ski easy, have more smooth water to ski on. We'd go to Good Hope Bay and ski, and White Canyon, and so
we mostly skied in the mornings and at night.
We skied all day.
Not during the day. I mean, if you wanted to, we'd throw it out, but it just wasn't smooth,
Right.
We were pretty good about, we wanted to jump the wake. We wanted to have a smooth ride.
Yeah, we water skied and boogie boarded all day long, and when I learned to ski, it was so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I grew up
in Utah and never went snow skiing.
I
went water skiing all the
My
time.
My parents took me snow skiing for the first time too.
Did
when I was about 17 or so. I think I snow skied 2 years, and I haven't done it since.
I'm turning 50 this year, and I've never snow skied.
Well, we do have a ski resort right up the road.
I'd go down a hill. Yeah, I could do that.
It's fun.
What they call mountains here are hills. So
yeah. There's no triple black diamond.
I don't know. My sister says you just point your skis inward, and then you fall on your butt when you're get in trouble.
Yeah.
Just go. Just let the hill take you until you're used to balance while you're doing that.
You have to go across the hill, not straight down. Because if you go straight down and you do that, you're not stopping.
Yeah, you got to do. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I'm going to break my body if I try it. I just know.
Yeah. Who knows? We may.
I may or may not ever go.
May or may not.
Then when you play the finger game of I've never,
Snow
bam.
skiing is one of them.
I could get a lot of people out.
You had R-rated movies for a long time.
I had R-rated movies, but age 38, I said that's enough.
We're adults. We can watch an R-rated movie.
No, I just got curious. I turned 38. I wanted to try everything.
Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah. What else about your parents?
My mom and dad sang in the Mormon Tabernacle choir, both of them for 20 years. They were high school sweethearts, met in choir. So they had their love affair go on with music their whole life. They kept singing. Even after they retired, they were singing in church and always got asked to sing wherever they went, singing in the household. Growing up, it was always the family ran the piano and singing a song. And all of us learned to play the piano. That was required. All of us learned to sing, and that was just a part of who we were. And so when we got bored, sometimes my sisters and I'd be like, hey, you want to go play on the piano? We'd just go sing and play and sing our harmonies, and it was fun.
Yeah, our piano was in our living room. My mom grew up and knew how to play the piano, but she didn't play a lot. I took piano lessons for about a half a year and then quit, which I still regret. I wish I would have stuck with it.
I'd come play at your house, but it wasn't like because of where it was at.
It was in a bad place.
It was where the TV was and the hangout place, and so it was like intrusive to everybody else that was communicating in that room.
Now we have a piano that's in the TV room here, but it's an electronic one.
Put on our headphones.
So you put on your headphones and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, my aunt and uncle introduced my parents to an electronic piano when I was a kid. Like, they got a roll-in and they were super excited. They had the little 3.5-inch floppy disk drive and
floppy disks.
Yeah. So here's the other. Speaking of floppy disks, my dad was not a fan of game systems when I was a kid. I wanted him to get an Atari game system, and he refused. But then they bought an Intellivision, which Intellivision wasn't the greatest game system.
No.
And that lasted, like, the handle kept wearing out. And then he, following my uncle's example, got an Atari 800 XL, which I learned how to type in a typing class, but we wrote reports on it. There were games, and I just remember the very first thing we used to load games was a tape deck.
A tape
and
deck.
It would take 15 minutes to load a simple game because it had to. So when we got floppy disks, that was a
huge ordeal.
No, that was like a big upgrade.
Yeah.
And now if I were to have to load games with a floppy disk, I'd go insane.
Remember, it would take about 10-15 minutes for the computer to turn on?
Yeah.
So, Neal.
Yes.
When I came into your family, your dad was jokey with me, very friendly, very fun, easy to talk to, easy to joke around, easy to listen to, and very sociable, very fun. And when I first met your mom, she was so sweet and still, I mean, they're both still like this. So bend over backwards to help you, bonds with really communicating, not just about the
weather.
Yeah. So we can get into the deep stuff, her and me, and that's really fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love your parents so much.
What's the juiciest thing she's ever told you? And we'll give her
I'll never say.
No, I don't want to know.
We have our secret.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, your parents. The first time I met your parents, I am a very sarcastic person, and I thought that your parents got that. When I met your parents, you were out shopping for a wedding dress, and I drove up into your house all by myself.
I bought my wedding dress.
And I was sitting around the table talking to them, and dropped in the middle of it that I'd been sent home from my mission a year early. Your dad got it.
Which usually means there was sin involved.
Yeah, your dad got it that it was a joke, and your mom, like 15 minutes later, came back to the came back. It's like, now about you getting sent home early from your
She
mission.
tried to clarify.
Yeah, she was. She. It took her a while to understand my sarcastic sense of humor, and
Once she did.
then she always apologized for me to servers at restaurants.
Well, and explained to everyone. Oh, now he's a real jokester. You can't take anything he said seriously.
Yeah.
She was worried. She did not want anyone else to misjudge him because he has this heart of gold, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I deliver one-liners very straight-faced.
Very straight-faced.
Like nobody knows. Like when our kids get in trouble, sometimes they don't know if they're really in trouble because.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't happen anymore.
That was when they were young.
When they were young, like they would be like, "Are you serious or are you really mad?"
Is this a joke, Daddy?
Like, no, this is real. I'm angry. I am an angry person.
I'm very angry.
No, but the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, my parents recently had their 50th, and we went there as a family. My little sister organized the whole damn thing.
And your mom.
And my mom. We went to Las Vegas, stayed at a super huge house.
It was amazing.
And had a great time.
Had a pool,
Yeah, did family
table.
pictures. The one sad thing is our oldest daughter wasn't able to go because we couldn't afford to fly her out.
When she has special needs pets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rescues there.
You could hear them barking the whole time on our episode number 2, I think.
They've been rehomed a few times.
Yeah, but we did that. My brother organized like a little program for us to get to know my parents better and a quiz show and stuff. Or Naomi's parents.
Wait, first, can we share the game they played? It was real cute.
Yeah, go ahead.
They went back to back, and they had questions that were, who's most likely to, or who always does this? And you would hold up, you had one shoe of your spouse and one shoe of yours. So if you thought it was you that was most likely, you'd put your shoe up. If you thought it was your spouse, you'd put their shoe up. So they didn't see each other's shoes. And it was always really funny who thought what of each other.
Yeah,
It was a cute game. I liked it.
Yeah, it was a good idea. I've seen that since then.
Yeah.
But it was really good. It was good, and everyone got a huge kick out of it.
Yeah.
Loved it. So Naomi's parents, on the other hand, were convinced they were going to die before their 50th. So
which they did.
Yeah.
Well, my mom did.
Yeah.
But we went to Fish Lake, and they had cabins, and we had 3 cabins. They were big and a big one, and smaller ones, but they were connected, so we could walk along the grounds and everything, and then we could spend time in the lake or in the woods because it's very woodsy there. Lots of animals and fun things, and so we played games. We did skits. We did a lot of pinochle. We love pinochle.
The funny thing is, when I think about that, I think about it as happening before 9/11, which it did.
Yeah.
Like
that's how you date it.
That's how I date it.
Pre-9/11.
Pre-9/11. I think it happened in 99. I think we did it in 99.
Oh, I don't remember.
Or 2000. We did it. I think we did it in 2000, and then
we made a great video out of it.
Yeah, it was and
because they went through and interviewed all the adult children and spouses to make a video, and interviewed my parents. Just kind of for posterity and commemorating it. We're so grateful to have it now and to be able to replay that and show kind of where we were at as a family at that time.
I'd like to do something similar with my parents.
I'd like to watch it. We haven't watched it.
I don't even know where it is.
Yeah, our son needs to be able to get memories, and he was just a baby.
Yeah, he doesn't know your family very well at all.
My mommy, oh my gosh, I remember saying, "Mommy, you can't die before I have all my children. You have to be here." And she wouldn't promise me. I kept telling her to promise me, and she wouldn't. And she kept thinking about it, and finally she said, "Okay, I promise." And it was only just what, like 2
8.
years after?
Yeah, how old was he?
How old was he? He's 08.
She
She died in 09.
So a year and a half?
A year and a half.
Oh, almost 2 years.
Almost, yeah. So yeah, it was close.
Wow. Yeah, your mom.
I think she hung on. I
Do
do.
ya?
Yeah. She did not feel well.
Yeah.
I'm sure she had it because it was stage 4 lung cancer that took her.
And she never smoked.
Never smoked a day in her life, but I'll tell you, in those basements, there's gases,
Well,
radon,
and she probably had the gene for lung cancer.
Oh, sure.
And
secondhand smoke.
Secondhand smoke, and she lived in Salt Lake Valley, and the inversions in winter in Salt Lake are terrible.
And she used a lot of aerosol hairspray.
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know. There's so much crap in our.
I wonder if that
toxic
contributes to it. Your dad passed away. So right before your mom died, they bought a condo for their retirement home
community. Yeah, so they had their little clubhouse, and they had their 3 different bedrooms, one of which they used as an office. It had all bunch of windows, and my mom they basically worked on scrapbook and temple work and family history the whole, I don't know how many years.
It was like 2 or 3. It was not as long as they thought it was going to be, I don't think.
Yeah, they just didn't. Then after my mom passed, my dad went and moved to a boat in Alaska.
Yeah.
By my brother. And he had muscular dystrophy, as my son does. And he, because of that, I was kind of the right-hand person, me and my sisters, because the brothers were, when they grew up, they did all the jobs that my dad couldn't physically do, and my dad would oversee and explain and do what he could to help. But, they were much older than us. So
by about 20 years.
They grew up and left the house, and it was us daughters. So we did all the mowing the lawn, the winterizing the cooler of, up on the roof, because it was an evaporated cooler. You had to do a whole bunch of stuff to get it ready for winter.
Yeah, we talked about that with Jen a little bit.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I fixed cars. I welded a wagon. I did things that
I've never welded.
A lot of girls didn't get to do. And it was great. I mean, like, our kids, you get a flat tire, we know what to do. Get out the spare. We can change it. And I've never done it because we have roadside assistance, but my sister's kids were pretty darn impressed that she didn't freak out at all when she had a flat tire. She didn't call anyone for help. She just took care of it.
My first flat tire, I'll share a story.
Okay.
My first flat tire was at the B-Deck in Price. Anywho, so my first flat was at the B-Deck. We came out of a basketball game, I think, and I backed up, and someone had put a beer bottle behind my tire. And I didn't know about it. I backed over, boom!
The whole tire popped?
Yeah, it just exploded.
Your rim was okay, though?
Yeah, it was fine. I was so upset. I was so pissed. I was like, "What? Who the hell puts a beer bottle behind someone's tire?" Like,
that's not nice.
That's rude. As my parents would say growing up, that's ignorant. Anyway, so the tire popped. I was really, really upset. I was so busy being mad that the idea of changing the tire didn't occur to me. Uh-huh. So I walked to the payphone in the BDAC because, this is 1990s, early 90s. There's no such thing as cell phone. I called my dad, and I was like, "Dad, someone popped my tire." And I thought he'd get mad and commiserate with me. He's like, "Well, change your tire and come home." Oh, I didn't even think about that. My dad was always a doer. Like, if we had to put in a dishwasher or build a TV stand, like my dad built an entire entertainment center for us and for his sister.
Very handy.
Very handy. And The funny thing
And
is,
just get it done.
yeah,
Just
he,
do
he
it.
built that entertainment center with a radial arm saw instead of a table saw, which
Wow.
was really, really dangerous. But he did it. It was a beautiful.
It was really
It was
pretty.
beautiful. It dated itself because it was made for a square TV, not for a flat screen. Like when they finally upgraded to a flat screen, he had to get rid of that entertainment center. And the sad part, it was just useless to anybody else.
Yeah.
It was great for its time, oak, and I mean it's
So
out of style
great.
now. But he taught because of him. I took wood shop and built a gun cabinet, which he paid for the entire thing. He paid for my mission. I mean, my dad was
He was a good dad.
he would do anything for his kids. Like, he, I mean, of course, I got punished. I got spanked and stuff. But
Me too.
I would never. I don't think I would say any of my parents' punishments ever approached abuse. It was like I always knew they loved us, and my dad and I, sometimes didn't get along. Or see eye to eye, and I got mad at him and he got mad at me. But all in all, like one of the things my mom, before I went on my mission, my mom looked at me, or of course she looked at me. That's a stupid phrase. My mom said, did we give you the childhood that you wish you would have had? Did we screw up? And I was like, Mom, my childhood was great. And the
Yeah.
longer I live, the more grateful I am for them as parents because they really gave me a good childhood.
Yeah.
Like, as outdated as Price is, there's still part of me that wants to move back there and relive some of my childhood
Yeah,
days.
it'd be so different if you did, though.
Yeah, like it wouldn't be the same, and I mean it'll never happen. But I miss the Price of my youth, and the Price of my youth is non-existent anymore.
Yeah.
We had a 4-wheeler that my parents got us, and I've never shared this story. When we were pressuring my dad to get a 4-wheeler when I was like 14 or 15, and he's like, and he and my mom were taking us into the 4-wheeler dealership and looking at them. We went to a few different ones. I still remember the feeling of looking at the 4-wheeler advertising magazines and just getting so excited. So anyway, the night before he bought the 4-wheeler, unbeknownst to us, he said we didn't know he was buying it the next day, but he said we're going to play solitaire because we're going to play solitaire Vegas rules, and if you make your money back, we're going to get a 4-wheeler, and if you don't, we won't. So Vegas rule solitaire is you pay $52. You pay
Your
$1.
dad had you gamble to
Yeah.
decide if you were going to get a
We paid $1. We didn't.
But you were deciding whether to get a
Yeah,
four-wheeler.
we didn't actually pay him any money, but
Right.
but the idea of behind Vegas rule solitaire is you pay $1 per card, so you pay $52 in, and then each card you lay down is worth $5. So we had to lay down at least 11 cards to get the 4-wheeler. And we did. I think my
He
second
may
youngest
have-
brother did it. I don't know if he would have got. He probably would have said best do it again until we
yeah.
got it. But
He may have stacked that deck, do you think? My mom would have.
he may have. I don't know. I have no idea how
That was one of
he got it. But
That's so great.
but he was like games of chance and risk were
Always fun.
big in his life. Like we went to, my aunt and uncle lived in Las Vegas, and my uncle was a pit boss and got us really good rooms and a free dinner at the hotel resort we were staying at.
Could always
He's
get
a
that.
pit boss. And I was looking in the pits one time, daydreaming about the day that I could play blackjack.
Aww.
And someone walked up to me and said, "What's this behind your ear?" Pulled out a $25 chip and gave it to me and said, "Here you go."
Nice.
I was like, "Wow, that was so awesome." He must have won.
My
that night.
memories of gambling were walking through, my mom saying, "Stay close by, you're not supposed to be here. Look down, don't look at anyone, don't touch anything." don't drink anything. And we would file by with all of our bags to go stay in the hotel because they were always cheap if you were by a casino, and breakfast was always
Free.
huge and yummy and free. Yeah. So
Yeah. Your parents
we
probably
never
didn't.
gambled.
Your
They never
parents-
gambled.
No, they didn't go down. Like my dad would go down and
They
play.
had a brother. My dad has a brother that had a real problem with gambling, and they just didn't mess with it. They saw that there were those that it was dangerous for and didn't want to risk it, and they didn't
Right.
want to try it.
Enough about gambling. You're right.
Let's talk about my parents. I haven't told you some of the fun things.
Yes, please do.
So, one of the things that I miss the most about them is the cards, the letters, the handwritten notes. Because, like, cards always had to be the kind that opened. They liked those ones so that you could write more. And my mom...
Your parents' cards were
Or she'd put a paper in that
a
was
work
typed.
of art.
They were a whole huge message that you got to put in your journal. We all had journals and wrote in them. I did, at least. And so we'd put it in our journal, and we now have those letters that commemorate all their feelings and thoughts about how they feel about us and love us. And they would tell us everything good that they were seeing us in our lives and what we were doing and our talents, and just really build me up and, buoy me up about who I was. And very, very positive. And my dad was...
They taught you how to take a compliment.
They did. They said if you get a compliment, you don't negate it. That makes the person feel uncomfortable. The only thing you have to say is thank you. Nothing else. Just thank you.
That is a good skill to have.
And
it's a really
you
good
can be
skill to
dying
have.
inside and being like, I hate this. They're wrong. Like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. But just to thank you, and then you move on.
And your mom... I've been around people who aren't sincere in their compliments and who compliment.
She really meant it.
She was very sincere, and she always meant it. Your mom was great. I miss your mom.
Yeah. So I miss their letters, and I miss their humor. Their singing all the time. The long talks. Like, the great thing when I had problems or needed to get something off my chest, or she was a sounding board, and she was not going to jump in with an opinion. She would ask questions to get you talking and get you thinking, and occasionally might add, her take on it, but it was usually just getting you talking and getting you to figure your stuff out. And then if I ever had problems in our marriage, she never held it against you. She would listen, and then she would say, now tell me what you like. Tell me, the good things. Tell me this and that. Like, she'd bring me back around to where I wasn't so angry and help me see without shoving it down my throat and being like, no, you should. Or it was nice.
I don't think she knew
and my
that
dad did that too.
I don't think she knew that I left the church before she died. Because I was drinking at her final part. I drank at the time of her final party, but I never drank around you at that time. Like, I was keeping my disbelief to myself.
When we were at her final party, you drank?
No, but there was beer bottles in the fridge, and I was like, oh, I wish I could have one. And we took them out of the fridge and put them in the back of a car and hid them from everybody. But I really wanted to drink. I really wanted a beer. I was like, but I was putting up the facade of being a believer at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other thing your mom did when we blessed our second, your mom stood up and bore her testimony in our student ward, and I don't remember specifics, but that testimony was kind of preachy.
I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
What was it preachy about?
It wasn't self-righteous. It was like talking about how her and your dad did things when they were kids, not kids, when they were young parents. I think, like it was It was
Did I feel like it was preachy? Did I say anything
no,
at the
and
time?
it wasn't inappropriate at all. It wasn't like over the top, but it was more like I've been where you kids are, and you can do it, and
It was encouraging.
it was encouraging, but
You'll make it.
it was
I did.
it was
You
it
will.
was kind of preachy, not in a bad
Okay.
way, not in a bad way. That ward where we had our first child, we were in a very well-to-do ward in Fruit Heights, and they spoiled us with
They
their
really
gifts.
spoiled us. We lived in a basement apartment, and somebody said, I have a dishwasher that plugs into the sink that no one's using. Would you like to use it? And so I had a dishwasher. I no longer had to do dishes by hand, which I
Yeah.
was not used to.
It was nice. And then we moved up to Aggie Village and lost our dishwasher,
Which was fine.
which is fine. But that Fruit Heights ward was really, really
They
good.
were real sweet. That was where we had our baby shower. We got
We got a
really fun things.
got a swing, got a rocking chair, and
We got so much. Holy cow.
yeah.
Great people.
Yeah.
We've had-
Oh,
We've had
that.
a lot of great people where we've lived.
Yeah, we
We
have.
really have.
And that reminds me of we went out to eat lunch in Bountiful one time with my dad, and the waitress server lady was like having a rough day, and he got her to the point where she was sitting down and
Said, come have a seat.
telling us her whole life story
Tell
and
us what's going on.
crying, and like he made her day
Yeah.
so much better.
Yeah.
Like she was I have
He
no
was real
recollection of what was
down.
going on, but
Yeah.
she was beat down. So he taught me how to because of him I learned how to treat servers. Like I still joke because of him. I still joke with
Yeah.
them, but I think
You try to get them laughing.
yeah, I don't make fun of them. I joke.
You keep it light.
Yeah. But your mom was always worried that they'd be
That
upset.
they didn't know that you were joking. My dad was the one that when my mom would send me to bed without dinner, he brought me a sandwich.
That was nice of him.
Yeah,
He loved you.
he did. But he also smacked me across the face when I called my mom a bitch.
Yeah, we talked about that in one of our
Which is
episodes.
appropriate, I suppose. I told him he was an abuser.
How old were you? 15?
Oh, I was 16.
16.
I knew better. I was being a snot.
I think if you would have called the police, they would have said,
They would have been like, yeah, girl, you deserve it.
yeah.
A different world.
Yeah. Well, my brother who's a cop, I think in today's society still would have told you, deal with it. That
Yeah.
wasn't abuse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it left no mark.
Yeah.
I think you have to leave a mark for 24 hours in Utah
Yeah.
for it to be illegal.
Yeah. I got spanked. I don't think my dad ever left a mark. My dad never slapped me across. My hits were always on the buttocks.
My mom would make us, she'd sit us down and explain to us why we were going to get spanked. And then we'd have to explain back to her so that she knew that we understood why we were getting spanked. And then we had to pull our pants down and whack. It was usually it was around like 5 to 8 smacks.
My spankings were
When
always
you were younger, it was
over
less.
my pants. My dad never.
And it was never, although I have heard one of my siblings, maybe 2 of them, had to go pick willow branches.
Oh, that was my dad's
Was
mom.
that-
It was my dad's
Is that
mom.
the story that I'm remembering?
Yeah.
Okay.
She'd make him and his friends go cut a
Pick their own
switch
switch, yeah.
and bring it in. Thankfully, that never happened to me.
Yeah.
And we had a weeping willow tree across the street, so he
We
could
did
have.
too.
He could have.
Yeah.
But he never did.
That's why I think maybe it might have happened at my house too. I'm not sure. I don't remember. See, my mom, I'm like my mother that way. I mix up memories, mix up people. Like your prayer.
Yeah.
Share that.
Oh, yeah. Your dad said a prayer, blessing the overs left though they may be, and your mom was convinced that I came up with that, and I'm like, that is not the way. Number one, that is not the way my mind works.
My dad's wit was very much that way.
Yeah, and number two, I didn't do it.
Yeah, play on words all the time.
And I want to make sure it drove me nuts when your mom said it was me, because I'm like, that was not me. Your dad deserved the credit.
After a while, you guys just gave each other a knowing look whenever she said it.
Yeah.
And gave you credit. You just kind of looked and smiled.
Yeah. What? It was him, because I wrote it down. Yeah. No.
Okay.
No, it was never him. Or it was you, because I wrote it. It was never me. That is not my...
You wrote it down.
Your dad was into puns and stuff like that. Like,
Very
he
punny.
loved a good pun.
Oh,
and
I loved his puns. They're so stupid.
I'm sarcastic. My humor was sarcasm.
Yeah.
And overs left though they may be does not fit into
punny.
my definition of the type of it fits into my definition of humor, but not into my definition of the type of humor that I come up with.
Would do.
It just doesn't fit my personality. So
what else can I tell you about growing up? Very, very much oriented in the gospel of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, indoctrinated with that and taught that growing up, and still hold it very near and dear to my heart and believe a lot of it. Few things aren't in line right now with what I believe with that set of beliefs, but yeah, I still hold a lot of fondness.
I have a lot of fond memories of the church, of the Mormonism.
Up, yeah.
Like, one of my favorite trips, youth trips, was a super activity that we went. We took a bus from Price down to St. George, and my parents accompanied us. And at the time, I was in seminary, and I had a very, I'll just say cheesy seminary teacher.
Oh, I think I know who this one is.
Who, like, he would cry every time he bore his testimony, and he encouraged us to bear our testimonies 2 or 3 times to the class. He's like, if you bear your testimony and you forget something, it's okay to stand up and do it again.
Oh.
So, with that in mind,
multiple shares.
We were having a testimony meeting on this youth trip, and I stood up 2 or 3 times, and my dad was not happy about that. You do not bear your testimony 2 or 3 times. You do it once and then you sit down. And I agree with him.
Yeah.
But at the time,
you just did what you were taught.
I was doing what I was told. Like, and what I was told was, you bear your testimony until you're done bearing it.
Yeah.
So I won't.
One of the things
I think I don't like testimonies. I don't like it at all right now, but at the time it was like completely normal. So I'm sorry.
That's fair. That you can say that. That's how you feel.
I'm not.
It's your opinion.
I'm not gonna rip on people for doing it, but I do not. I like
You're not a fan of it.
I'm not a fan of it. Anyway.
I'm not a fan of the parents telling the child what to say.
Oh, in our home ward growing up, there was one family. It was like a string of 5 kids, and the oldest child would whisper in each of the younger kids' ears what to say. It was painful.
If you don't know what you're gonna say or have something to say, then I don't know. That's just my thing. And there's arguments for both sides, whatever.
Indoctrination.
We are doing tangents. That's what we do. I don't think it's okay. We disagree. We see things differently.
When you whisper...
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah, okay.
Yes and no.
So, anywho, what else? Oh, one other thing I wanted to talk about your parents. Mm-hmm. They, like you said, they sing in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, which is now called the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square or something like that. And the Craig Jessup was the conductor of the choir during the
mostly Gerald Otley for the bulk
Jerry
of it.
Otley was most of the time, but towards the end of their career, last 4 or 5 years, it was Craig Jessup. And one summer, he invited the choir and and some guests to come watch him conduct the Utah Symphony up at Deer Valley.
Oh,
And
wasn't that magnificent?
your parents invited us, and we watched him conduct the Utah Symphony and the Utah Symphony Choir at Deer
Outdoors
Valley.
in the mountains.
Oh, it was so
on a
gorgeous.
blanket. We got up and danced when we wanted to.
And it was weird because there were a lot of people around us who had picnic baskets with wine and
yeah.
like being who I am now, that's what I would have done. But being who it was hard for me watching your dad walk because he had to walk with his knees locked, or otherwise he'd fall over like a sack of potatoes. But I
that was
tried,
when he could walk.
When he could walk, yeah. I remember walking behind him to make sure no one.
I remember
got him from behind.
I could carry my dad. I could lift him because there was a lack of muscle mass. So he wasn't as heavy as you think he was.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember going up the stairs. Sometimes I would grab his belt and pull up to give him a little bit more oomph climbing up the stairs. But yeah. But I remember thinking how lucky I was whenever you had like daddy-daughter dances or activities where your dad came to school. Just feeling like I was always able to do what I wanted with my dad in those activities, even if it had to be, like dancing with him. I sat on his lap while we danced around in his electric wheelchair, But yeah, we always found a way to do the activity and enjoy it, which was, I thought that was cool. I always thought, and I still do feel like any disability he had brought us closer together and made me a better person. Like the kind of dad I got, the way he showed up for me and was just amazing. I got to have a lot of conversations that were deep and meaningful and emotional and connected in that way with a father figure that is unusual for that time. I don't know. I think that was pretty unique.
I think we were both very
little perk.
Depending on how you want to put it, we were either lucky or blessed to have the parents that we had. Like
a lot of good things in our childhood.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's not trauma, and that's just going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to EMDR some of my childhood shit.
Sure.
But
me too.
But like when you weigh the good of our at least I think you can. I'm just say for me, and you can speak for yourself. But when I weigh the good of my upbringing against the bad, the good outweighs the bad.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very good, and I do think a lot of that is how much that religion does put a focus on the family and family time and family unit and family unity.
Yeah. I will say my dad was a railroad engineer. So he was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like we could never plan anything, and it always took. Did it take you a while to get used to that?
Yeah.
Like it people weren't like.
It really bothered me.
Yeah, people would want him. The church would ask him to do certain callings, and he's like, "I can't guarantee I'll be at church on Sunday. That my schedule is too unpredictable. I can't do this calling."
And my dad and mom had to say that because of their callings in the choir. Like people didn't understand. They were full-time missionaries. They were set apart as missionaries for that calling, and they had a lot of practice. And then they had their broadcast every week.
Yeah.
And tours, which I got to go on with some of them. In fact, I would like to do an episode on my trip to Jerusalem.
Oh, yeah.
To Israel.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be amazing with the choir?
I remember seeing videos of the choir singing in Jerusalem while I was on my mission, and I had no idea that my future mother and father-in-law and my future wife was there watching them record.
Watching them. Hi, Nora.
Those songs. So
this one's our little one. I don't know if you can see her up down here, but our doggy's saying hi.
Yeah, and you know what I just realized? So our oldest dog she's a golden retriever, and she'll be
She's on her way
13.
out.
She'll be 13 in a couple months. Watching her go up and down the stairs now reminds me of watching your dad go up and down the stairs before he finally
Both my
had to
dad
stop.
and my dog have fallen a few times down the stairs.
Yeah, I remember we were downstairs at your house for a holiday, and I didn't know it, but your dad was going up the stairs. All I know is the wall, I heard boom, 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 and the wall bent in. And I was like, what the hell? I thought it was a kid running
Well,
down the stairs.
he
And
had
it
just
was,
had open heart surgery,
yeah,
and he fell all the way from the top to the bottom.
yeah.
And it ripped open one of his stitches. It was a whole mess.
And I still feel selfish to this day for being annoyed at the kid. But
And my mom was always very careful to try to keep the kids away from him in case he fell. Her worst fear was that he'd fall on a child.
And that happened one time. Your nephew came up behind him and gave him a big hug behind his legs.
Yeah, went to hug his legs, and they buckled, and he just...
I would get so...
It just dropped.
It was all about me. I'd get so mad, and it's like, no, this is your dad.
Mad at my dad or mad at the kid?
Mad at the kid, or mad that it happened.
They don't know. Yeah.
I don't like loud noises.
That's it's
And
inherent.
And I would get...
Bred in, yeah.
Yeah, I would get really mad at the loud noise more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. So you wanted someone to blame.
Yeah.
Yeah. That does help you. If you have someone to blame, you feel a lot better.
Yeah. It's stupid.
I don't.
I kiddingly blame you all the time for everything.
And I don't care. So that's fine.
But I know that it's not real. But when something big happens, it's loud. I get really mad. Like,
you don't like it.
Just ooh, I can't take it.
Whoever did it, it's their fault.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. So, what else?
My mother would give me all the information I wanted if I had questions, and my sisters knew that I had the guts to ask the questions. So even though I was the youngest, by the time them and all of their friends got to be teenage girls and were curious about sex and about all the topics that you don't talk about at church amongst your friends because they're taboo, they would come to me and say, go ask mom and dad this, go ask mom and dad that. So I would. So I learned a lot about all of those subjects really fast at a very young age and she explained it age appropriately, but I still learned a lot. I'm surprised she didn't ask where I was getting these questions
the closest to a sex talk I ever had with my parents, the first, I'll talk about the second, but the first was when the Seinfeld episode came on with the contest.
Oh.
And my dad and brother were laughing their heads off at it, and I was uncomfortable because, I was participating in said contest activity. But I went in the kitchen, and my mom goes, you're not supposed to do that, right? I'm like, yeah, I know, Mom.
Did you know?
Oh, I knew I wasn't supposed
you
to, but I still did it. But that was the closest I ever came to a sex talk with my parents. And then when we got married, I asked my dad if he had any fatherly advice, and his advice was it'll be natural. So your dad gave me a sex talk from on a drive to work from West Jordan to downtown Salt Lake City. I heard an in-depth discussion, which was honestly good.
Yeah.
But it's weird having a sex talk with your father-in-law.
Yeah, your future father-in-law, I bet. But see, they were like that. They would have uncomfortable conversations. We did not just talk about the weather. We would talk about hypotheticals of gospel doctrine and even have discussions where we had heated disagreements. But it was never like a big deal. It was all like, well, doesn't matter. It just didn't matter. But we would definitely have difficult conversations, and everybody got to share an opinion. And even when I was young, I would get to participate in having an opinion and sharing what I thought about any subject and asking questions. It was a lot of conversing, deep talking.
Yeah, I don't think we talked that much in my family.
Yeah, we talked a lot.
We watched a lot of TV.
We did not. We had we didn't
And I
have
still
cable.
watch a lot of sports because of that.
We didn't have cable. We
Mm.
had an antenna up on the roof. So, we only got like 5 or 7 channels maybe at most.
Yeah, that was weird part. Like when we'd go visit your dad and your parents, not your dad, your parents, and there was never cable.
Yeah, we just didn't watch TV very much.
And my family like drove you nuts. We'd go to my house to visit my family, and my dad would watch sports.
Yeah. Now I've learned from you how to sit and be and relax. And I'm learning in my older age to have my own thoughts and no sound and no one else in the house. And I'm okay. Like that never used to happen. I was afraid of what was going to go on in my head and the thoughts that were going to race and all the craziness. And I didn't want to be alone. I wanted to be with someone. But I'm getting that. And I can sit and watch a show. It's hard for me
My
to sit the
mom-
whole time. Your mom was always doing something.
Yeah, she was always crocheting. She'd take a phone call. That angry look. It always frustrated me watching a movie with her because we could never watch it straight through because she'd always get interrupted.
Yeah.
And
But it's because we're being everything to everyone all the time.
yeah. I was selfish.
Yeah, no, you didn't know.
I didn't know,
You
but
didn't know any
but
different.
I thought that it was all about me. But I just remember my mom crocheted all the time. She had a
Knitted.
light
She
over her
knitted
shoulder.
more.
No, she crocheted. She didn't knit. She used one hand.
Oh, you're right. She does crochet.
And I had my blanket growing up was from my grandma. Like I had that. It was a little yellow blanket that I had for years.
Your mother and I crochet different. She can't teach me how to do it more effectively because of my music and the way that I play piano. Because I poo-pooed fingering. I said I don't want to do this, so I do it however I want. Except for when I'm teaching, I'll teach it right. But anyway, I use both hands when I crochet. Like, usually one is going and the other one is just kind of stable holding. But I'm like,
Yeah, I have no desire to
It's
learn
like
how
a
to
whole
crochet.
mess. It's not the same size. It's not efficient.
No. The other, I will say, my dad loved hunting. Like, growing up and going on the rite of passage to go on the deer hunt when I was a kid, was a huge, huge deal. Like, my cousin, my dad's brother, and his family would come to our house in Price every deer hunt. Like in Utah, you got the first Monday of the deer hunt off when I was a kid.
Oh, you're right.
Like it was
It
was
a big deal.
big, huge deal. So my uncle would come to Price, and his wife and their kids would come to Price, and he had the 2 oldest boys would always go hunting with my dad and my uncle, and the 3rd boy and my brother and I would hang out around the house and wish that we were hunting. And the first year that I was able, I think my dad said you could go at 8 when we turned 8 years old. So I was finally able to go, and the year that we went, there was a huge, huge snowstorm on opening morning, and my dad was hiking through 3 feet of snow, and I was following in his tracks to keep up with him.
Oh, wow.
Like, going hunting was and then we'd hunt on Saturday because the opening day of the hunt was on a Saturday. We'd stay home. We didn't hunt on Sunday. We'd go to church or whatever, and then go hunting again on Monday. But the Saturday hunt was always the most exciting. I remember not ever being able to sleep before the hunt because we'd wake up at like 4 a.m. to head up to the mountain.
That sounds like our vacations.
Yeah, like like we rarely woke up early for vacation, but for hunting and fishing,
You did.
you woke up
My
early.
mother would type out an itinerary for our vacations and coordinate when we were going to go to the bathroom, when we, like, down to the, and they started, I'm not kidding, sometimes at 3 a.m. because we had to drive. And that was always crazy when in-laws married in and was like, I'm sorry, we're meeting at what time?
It would. Your mom loved. She drove me nuts on vacation. She was so controlling.
She wanted to make sure we got it all in. And
Yeah.
we always did. We
Yeah.
got it in. A lot.
And I got mad.
Yeah. You wanted to chill and go by the seat of your pants. And she wanted to make sure we got it all in.
Yeah, your mom and I did.
We're more on the chill side in our family, but there's definitely pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
We don't see as much. We don't on our vacations.
Yeah, but we have fun.
But we're totally chill.
We don't need you do need a vacation from the vacation.
There's not an itinerary in our house.
Well, when we were younger, I don't think we've ever planned a vacation more than a few months in advance.
Yeah, no, we would plan for years and look forward to it.
Talk about your big vacation. Alaska.
Okay. So we planned a trip to Alaska. It was 6 weeks long, chartered a boat down the Inside Passage, and we had the 5 kids. Everyone was married except for me. One couldn't go. She was expecting, and we didn't know if the baby was going to come during that. My mom was really worried about that. It was a whole ordeal. She still feels bad that we didn't postpone the trip, but she was worried about my dad dying.
Right.
But it was my mom's health that went bad. Anyway, it was good that we did it, but it was sad that this person missed out. And we half went for 3 weeks, and I watched.
Half of the kids went for 3 weeks.
Half of the kids went for 3 weeks with my parents on the boat and got to see parts of the Inside Passage, and then half went the other because we couldn't take off that much time. My dad had saved up. He worked for the state, so he had lots of vacation. But we did classes. We met once a week for a while leading up to it for family home evening as a group. Everybody got together on Sunday and we took tests, faux tests, like we had to pass or something to go. But it was just, we learned about the culture. We learned about the natives, the economy, I don't know, just all the things that there are to know, so that by the time we went, and all the things we needed to know on the boat to be able to be an effective crew member, and a crew, each of us, we had to have a crew for each leg of the trip. But that was once in a lifetime fantastic.
I didn't even know you at the time.
We didn't know each other.
You were 15.
I was young. I was 16.
16?
Mm-hmm.
But your brothers, all your siblings were married or close to being married.
Yeah.
And you were the
I think they
caboose.
were all married. But yeah, gosh, I have so many good memories. Just a great childhood. A lot of blah too, but
yeah,
not intended, like I said. And
of course,
everyone works. Eventually you have to work through your stuff. So
yeah,
that's hopefully people can start to think about stuff like working through their stuff from some of our conversations.
Yeah,
I hope
so. Yeah, I will just conclude my portion by saying my childhood was really good. Still, my parents are still alive, which I'm grateful for.
So grateful.
I don't talk to them often enough.
They're my second parents, yeah.
And
even though your dad won't let me call him dad.
Yeah, well, I never wanted to call your dad or your mom.
I know
mom.
You guys were so uncomfortable.
I told our daughter's fiance and our son's wife not to call me dad.
And they don't want to call me
Neal.
I say call me what you want.
Yeah, so.
Oh my gosh, I love my parents so much. I miss them dearly. They were so good to me. Raised great kids. Love my siblings. So grateful to have a great home and a great, family.
Yeah.
Just lots of good things came from that.
Yep. And I've got a pretty damn good wife because of the person.
So
she was
happy
raised to
Mother's
be.
Day belated to you guys, because this is going to come out much later. But hopefully it sparked some fun memories for you in your childhood and what your parents are like. And tell some family members so it lives on.
Yep.
Keep the family lore alive.
Yep. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
I have been Neal Winters.
I'm Naomi Winters.
And safe home. God bless. Cheerio. All the best. Bye-bye.
And keep it weird.
Keep it
and real. Keep it real. And
stay curious.
Stay curious.
Okay. Bye.